It's the weekend and you have financial questions that need answering. That can only mean one thing. It's time for Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It is Jill on Money, and we are delighted that you are joining us today. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios here in New York. And this is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. By the way, it's very confusing out there. A lot of stuff going on. But you don't have to really parse through every single jig and jag in the economy. You have to take care of yourself. You've got to do what you need to do. And just as the kids are back at school, and we all sort of have that weird academic calendar in our heads, it's a really good time for you to take control of your financial life. One way that you can do that is to just give us a shout. Send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Or if you're on our website, Jill on Money, just contact the contact button. It's right there, top right. Click on it, and we'll get your email. We have gotten a lot of questions about some of the posts that I have put up recently. You can find that under the blog or read section of the website. I would point out a couple of things. Again, here we are. It's September. Maybe you weren't really into this when the month started, but we've got a really good post on kids and money and how you can talk to your kids about money. This, to me, is a really critical thing that you can control, okay? You can do this. It's easy. We also have a couple of things up. Retirement plans for self-employed. Do remember that some of these plans have October 31st deadlines to establish them. So you may want to check that out. And we've also got something for those folks who are looking at changing their careers. It's all at jillonmoney.com. But as always, we like to begin the program with a caller. And our caller today is Joe from Washington State. Hi, Joe. Welcome to the program. What can I do for you?
Good morning. How are you?
Great.
We found you. It was not a mistake. We were looking for some guidance, but we knew we loved you when we were listening in December of 18, and you came across a caller whose background was in, and you'll remember this. It was in adult entertainment.
Best caller of 2018. Of course I remember it.
And we said we love this girl. My wife and I, we're not adult entertainers, but we are. My wife is a bit younger than I am. I am 60. My wife is 35. We've been married for 15 years.
Hold on one second. I got to get back to that. So, You were 45 years old, and you dated a 20-year-old?
And I didn't know how old she was. She didn't know how old I was. We talked for a while. We were on the phone.
Yeah.
Finally we went out, and on the radio I had Chopin. She said, "Oh, that's Chopin. We're both from New York City. We were in Kona, Hawaii when we met. And exactly 1 year to the date after we met, we were married at my family's home in Seal Beach. And we just get along so well. I was a devout single person, and she just was, it just worked. It worked for us."
So wait, why are you guys in Washington State if you're New Yorkers? Were you working there? You were working?
Yes, in Kona, Hawaii. We were both born and raised in New York City. She went to Kona, Hawaii with her mom. I was opening restaurants in Kona, Hawaii.
Uh-huh.
And that was it. We haven't left each other's side since.
That's fantastic.
We were in Seal Beach, California. We wanted to own our own home.
Mm-hmm.
Way expensive there. So we moved up here. We are in our home for 3 years now.
Mm-hmm.
And like you say, it's kind of a fourth saving account, and we love it.
Okay, quick question for you. Can you get a decent bagel in Seattle? Because I'm guessing no.
No.
No, you can't. Of course you can't. All right, I just wanted to point that out. We'll have to send you a special package, a little care package, so you can have some real bagels. So, right? What's going on in your life that we can help you out with?
Okay. My wife is actually one of the brightest people I've ever met, and She was in nursing school 5 years ago, came home one day and said, it's too stressful for me. I need to divert my attention. So she started writing a food blog. A week later, she came home and said, wow, 6 people are following me. Well, I was one of them, and the family were the other 5. Fast forward to last December, 150 people hit her blog. Her cookbook hit the decks July of 2018, and it was expected to do okay, but it did extremely well.
What's the book? We got to plug the book for her. What is it?
It's called The Weeknight Mediterranean Kitchen. She was raised rolling grape leaves with her mom in the kitchen, running down to get more rice in Brooklyn, and she put all of this in her amazing cookbook, and it has blown off the shelf. So we have this extra windfall. Every 6 months, she gets a royalty check, and I'm a realist, so I want her to have everything she needs and to do. She's the one that's doing all the work. I handle the finances for the family. Mm-hmm. We have no kids, her and I. I handle all the finances. I divert this money into her royalties into her. I put money into her 401 under a separate category. She has money coming into her 401k from Whole Foods, where she is a supervisor. And I can't put money into that, but it's the same account that I can put money into. She comes home and she says, did you hear about Pinterest? Have you heard that? I have never heard of Pinterest. She said, I think you should get it. When it was $24, we got a bunch of Pinterest. I listened to her. She's smart. So I've been saving a couple bucks that she puts into, she pays it herself. So with this extra, and it's probably about an extra 60 every 6 months, 60,000. And we have a 401k for me at about 300,000 with Merrill. She has about 200,000 so far with her retirement account, and we're not sure what to do with this extra 50 or 60 we get every 6 months. We owe $200,000 on a $375,000 home, and we're not sure where to go from here.
Okay, so let me go back in time. You are still working?
I am partially working. I stopped in July to help Sammy reach her goals.
Okay.
Get her to and from book signings, different states, different countries, and it's something that works for us. We work very, very well together.
Awesome. Hang on the line. I'm going to come back. We're going to talk about what we need to do going forward with these royalties. You're doing a great job already. I love telling me the whole story, so that's fantastic. When we return, we are going to figure out what to do when life goes better than expected. I love that. So, Joe, hang in there. Joe from Washington State. And you listening, if you would like some financial advice and direction like Joe, just send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And, of course, if you're on the website, JillOnMoney.com, we've got a contact button. It's in the upper right-hand corner. Hey, during the break, go to JillOnMoney.com. Make it your favorite. Bookmark it. All right? We'll be right back.
Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, she's all over the place. Go to JillOnMoney.com to find it all. Now back to the show with Jill Schlesinger.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we went to the break, we were talking to Joe from Washington State, who is 60 years old. His wife is 35, and she has a great fortune of making more money than expected from a book, which is fantastic. And Joe, before we went to the break, you were just telling us a little bit about you had $300,000 that was in a 401k, and you said it was at Merrill Lynch. Why is it at Merrill Lynch?
Because my mom and I made a deal in Seal Beach when we were all living kind of on the same property. Samantha and I put money into the home to upgrade it, and my mom said, well, when she's done with us in this world, she would send her inherited IRA over to me.
Okay. All right. So you've got the inherited IRA, which is non-contributory. So that's the 300 grand is the inherited IRA?
Yes, it's doing pretty well. It's
Great.
It's
Okay. And then what about your own? So is all of your money at Merrill Lynch right now, retirement wise? You said there was 300 grand. That's the inherited IRA. What about your own retirement account?
No, that's it. I put whatever I make into Samantha's retirement.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
And her retirement, you said she works at Whole Foods. And so is she maxing out her retirement contribution? Is she putting 19 grand into that?
She's putting close. It's about 16.
Okay, great. And so the windfall amount that you've been getting, have you talked to anybody about maybe putting in place an additional retirement plan? Because that is separate money. It is self-employment income. Potentially, you could open a second retirement plan for her and help her defer some of this tax liability. Is that something that you've thought about?
I did not think about it until I heard yesterday's show when you talked about that for self-employed people. Yes.
Yeah, because I think that could be. So if you go into JillOnMoney.com, we've got a blog post that's called Retirement Plans for Self-Employed. And you'll see there's a couple of different options, and especially if you happen to work with a CPA, that might be something to consider. But I think, you could potentially say, hey, she's got this self-employment income. You could open up something called a SEP IRA, and you could put up to 25% of whatever she's earning into this. And that's kind of a good deal, right? And that will help both of you, and that will help her save for the long term.
Wonderful. Tax deferred.
Yeah,
right?
exactly. So you want to check that out. In your sort of current situation, you're able to bank all of the royalty. How are you guys supporting yourselves? Just on her Whole Foods income, and you are working part-time, or what's the current state of the cash flow?
Exactly.
Okay.
With Sammy's paycheck goes directly into our checking account, and that pays all the bills. And my income, which is actually less than Sammy's, goes to all the stuff. We treat each other really well. We take an extremely nice vacation once a year, and we live pretty well. We're big foodies, obviously, and she does a lot of. She also has an income from her food blog too. And that is just so. This is all her doing, and I'm helping to guide because I've been through a few things, and then with you also on our side, we're able to make all this great stuff happen.
So I think the only other question is, once you start looking at different retirement plans, is how she should be investing for the long term, because obviously at age 35, it's a long way to go before she needs this money. Right now, how confident are you in your own ability to manage investments?
Pretty good. I would say I'm about 65-70% there. I watch the markets daily. I have a friend with Wells back east, and he's also an investment. He helps guide me, and I learn every day.
Okay, so if you feel like you could do this, and you probably can, it's not rocket science, for God's sakes. One idea would be is wherever you open that next retirement plan for her, is that you do it at a no load, meaning a no commission, low cost fund family. And that could be anything from Vanguard to T. Rowe Price to Fidelity, TD Ameritrade, Charles Schwab, any of these places. And the goal here would be to use low-cost index funds in order to build a diversified portfolio for her. And, she should obviously partake in this process just so not that she has to manage it day to day. And you don't have to do this day to day, by the way. You can set it up and pretty much forget it and then just help her monetize her great business. But I think that what you really are going to be focused on is to build a portfolio for her that is probably a little more growth oriented than, say, the portfolio that you might have for your IRA, right? Because your IRA, you're going to have to end up drawing it in 10 years and this, that, and the other thing. she could be a 70-30, 70% risk, 30% less risk. She might be that kind of person. And so that's your next step. What's the rate on the mortgage that you guys have?
We just refined 3 days ago at 3.5.
Great. Okay, so you're not going to touch that. And just, run through your cash flow, make sure you understand where the money's going. And that's kind of how I would proceed. I think you're in great shape. You obviously can give us a holler anytime if you're running into like a little worry around how to invest. And if you really, it's interesting. If you feel like you want to get a start with putting the money in place, you may want to just poke around, take some risk assessment questionnaires. And again, I do encourage you to involve her because I don't know if anyone told you this, but you're a little bit older than she is. I'm just kidding you. So just a little bit. But she'll end up having to run this money herself at some point. We want her to feel like she understands everything and she's on board with it. And even if she outsources the month-to-month or quarterly management to you, I really think it's important that she understands what's in there and where the risks lie. And then, of course, I would be remiss in not reminding you that you guys do have all of your estate documents.
Yes, we do.
All right. If anything else comes up, give us a holler. But you've got a few bits of homework to do, and keep us posted. I think this is a great story. I think she's done a great job, and you're being a very dutiful spouse. She's the CEO, and you are the CFO. So you're running the finances. So we appreciate that. And what's the name of the book? One more time. Let's plug it.
The Weeknight Mediterranean Kitchen.
The Weeknight Mediterranean Kitchen. That would be great if I could get someone else to cook it for me. All right. Hey, Joe, thanks so much for calling, and keep in touch with us, all right?
Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Hey, Mark, I like that one. Did you check out the cookbook? Yeah? It's legit, Mark says. Mark, you are the Weeknight Mediterranean cook. He's the cook in the house. I am sadly the cook in my house, which, God, how could I be with an Italian who doesn't cook? How is that possible? It's a sin, Mark says. But we do like to eat. So there's that. If you heard you heard me cite something, we've gotten a lot of questions, again, about retirement plans for self-employed people. Do check that out on the website, JillOnMoney.com. All you have to do is click the read section. And there are a lot of options. For anyone who's got some side hustle income, you may want to check out an IRA, whether you can do a traditional, whether you do a Roth, whether you do a non-deductible. It's a great way to start. $6,000 is that limit this year. $1,000 catch up if you're over the age of 50. Then there is the plan that I just mentioned to Joe, the Simplified Employee Pension or SEP IRA. There are also simple IRAs. There are solo 401ks. There are profit sharing plans, money purchase plans, defined benefit plans. There's so much. If you've got a question about a retirement plan for your self-employment income, give us a holler. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And if you're on the website, just poking through that blog post, contact button is in the top right corner. Okay, it's Jill on Money, and we will be right back.
Welcome back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger takes the mystery out of your finances.
You are back. It is Jill on Money. And if you've got a financial question, we would love to hear from you. Love it. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com is our email address. Let's do it. Let's get some of these emails cleared out. Audrey has $81,000 in a thrift savings plan. She would like to retire at the end of this year. However, my daughter has a business and she needs some moolah so she can purchase merchandise for vendors and shows. Here's the question. If I withdraw $5,000, it will deduct from my current TSP balance. Any suggestions as how I can help her? I don't really want you to. Why do you need $5,000 is a lot, considering you only have 81 right now. If you withdraw this money, you get taxed on it. If you borrow it, it has to get paid back as soon as you retire. Maybe you can tell her that when you retire, you'll think about helping her out, but not right now. And if you're really going to do it, I guess you can pull it out and pay the tax on it. But I don't actually think you should do it. You don't have that much money to be throwing $5,000 at your daughter's business. Okay. David writes, I've got a bunch of money in cash. And I'm 5 years away from retirement. I've got many buckets and want to know if having 4 years of cash for living expenses is too conservative. Well, I think 2 years is fine. You don't need 4 years of cash now. If you're really worried about the changes that could be happening and money that you keep in safe stuff, you could probably put some money in. Instead of cash, maybe some bonds or bond funds. I wouldn't go too crazy with this. Okay. Here's somebody who heard me on a podcast called The Indicator, the Planet Money podcast. And this was actually a fun podcast because I counseled one of the guys who works there. His name is Darius. And so this is David who's writing. I'm proud that through frugality and discipline, we got both of our daughters with their bachelor degrees without taking out any loans. They each contributed 10%. So here's my current situation, says David. I'm 63. I'm planning to retire in late 2020 as a California state employee with a pension. And he writes, yes. My spouse, 62, plans to work for a few more years. We're both in good health. We'll likely wait to file for Social Security until our full retirement ages. Currently, we're putting around $3,000 a month in our retirement accounts, and these accounts total nearly $500,000. We have about $80,000 in savings, and we've got some money in stocks. The biggest debt left is a 3.5% 15-year mortgage. We pay our credit cards in full. Okay. Now, let's see what else we got going on here. Got to get a new car, blah, blah, blah. So here is my question. Should we use some of our savings to pay this free car loan? Let's see. I worry that even with discipline, we may only save $1,000 to $1,250 a month. I should mention I have an MBA. Financial decisions still confuse me. So, I mean, if you have a 0% interest loan, I don't think you have to pay it down. That's when you get a car loan that's a 0% interest payment, then there's no reason to pay it down. There's no mistake to be made. So try to put things on autopilot, get that in line for yourself. And I think that you should be not worried about paying down a 0% interest loan. Really. I mean, you could still, you still make do just keeping some of that extra money in the bank. Tim is writing from Santa Barbara. I'm tired of working full time. I've been preparing myself for many years to retire in 3 years at age 59 and a half. I want to do this. I'm single, never married, no kids, no medical issues. I'll pay off my mortgage in full. In 3 years' time, I'll transfer title to my trust and extended family will enjoy it when I'm gone. But I want to leave the planet otherwise broke. My monthly core income need in retirement is about $36,000 a year, so $3,000 a month, and I will adjust up annually for inflation. I plan to load most of my investment assets in 2022. Oh my God! So I see what he's saying. So he's got about $1.75 million. He's going to put it all into the Vanguard Wellesley Fund, which is a balanced fund. And he says, I'll have 2 years as a cash buffer. And what am I overlooking? Doesn't sound like you're overlooking much. I mean, I think that sounds damn good, Tim. Go for it. Come on. There's no need that you should feel worried, anxious. You got it all done. It sounds like you got your estate planning done. Keep doing it. Lisa heard me on KDKA radio in Pittsburgh, the oldest radio station in the country, Mark? I think so. Check that out. Try KDKA. I think so. So she says, I heard you talking about consolidating debt, and you had mentioned that you could talk directly to a credit card company about lowering or negotiating an outstanding balance. How do you do that? What's the best way to get out of debt? The answer to that, Lisa, is you call the company directly, and then you actually have to talk to them and tell them that, I can't pay what I owe you, and you have to help me out, and you kind of beg and you tell the truth, but make sure you got all your ducks in a row, know exactly how much you owe, and be willing to bare your soul. And then sometimes you can actually get somewhere. And Janice writes that she read an article recently that I wrote about student loan scams, and it reminded me about a voicemail I received recently telling me, quote, my social was being discontinued because of suspicious activity. I knew it was a scam because Social Security cards don't work that way. I want to report it. I don't know where to do so. You guys, when you get these scams that come to you, FTC.gov, they've got a complaint button, and the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, the CFPB, consumerfinance.gov. You should report it in both places. And you would be very helpful to all of your neighbors and fellow citizens for doing that. It's Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, give us a call. No, don't give us a call. Drop us a line. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com or go to the website, jillonmoney.com. We've got a contact button in the top right corner, so do that, and we will get you on the air live with us. Okay, we'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
All righty, it's Jill on Money. We are blowing through some emails, and Joe followed up on a question that he wrote about what is the risk of saving too much, and then he wanted to clarify that, and he said, because I sort of made fun, there's no risk of saving too much, and he said, well, what I think is if we take advice literally, I might forget to live for today or live in the moment. Yeah, I agree. I'm not one of these people who says, save all of your money for what? I think you should live for today, but I think there's a healthy balance. So that, I think, is important. So if you think about this more generally, I would say that people tend to use I want to live in the moment as a rationale for not saving. So I just want to make sure we guard against that. Okay. Here's a follow-up to a question about index annuities. And this is a question about if there is an index annuity that I'm invested in, how does the company take into consideration required minimum distribution? Well, what they are, when they report what they're giving you in terms of a return, they are not actually including that required minimum, the money that you pull out. They have to let you take that money out, and I presume that they're doing a gross calculation, not a net calculation. So you might want to ask them about that yourself. Okay, here's a message from John, who's been planning to retire from public service for the last several months. I'm almost 63. I have a fairly decent pension as well as other savings and investments. After reading your book last week, I began realizing that I just wasn't ready to retire yet, since I really like my job and my coworkers. Your words spoke to me in a very personal way and really helped me see that I just wasn't ready for this next major step. Anyway, I wanted to take the opportunity to personally thank you for time and effort that it took you to produce this work. It really made a difference for me. You've made a profound difference. Oh, that's so nice. Thank you. If you want to buy the book, I see I was going to turn that, Mark. If you too want that, now, I really do appreciate that. The book is called The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs, and you can get it on our website, jillonmoney.com. Carolyn and her husband are 60. They're preparing wills using an online platform. They've got 401ks, IRAs, saving several CDs. And they've got a portfolio of $3 million with about $2 million in cash and CDs. Do you recommend setting up a trust? It seems to be the advice of a couple of different estate attorneys I've contacted, but I don't know why I would add these accounts that are already have beneficiary instructions. We own our home. Can I just say one thing? Why are you using an online planning platform if you've got a few $1,000,000? You can't pay for an attorney? I'm not saying you need a trust. You don't need a revocable trust. You just want to make sure that, if you live in a state where you might have some state estate taxes levied, then sure, you don't need a trust. But I don't understand why you're doing this online and by yourselves. I find that to be curious. I would go to a lawyer. I would. Here's a question from Angela about Social Security. I work and I intend to keep working. I went back to school 7 years ago, so I still have $65,000 in student loans. I'd like to pay off my mortgage. I want to work until I'm 70. Do you think I should take Social Security at 66 to help pay off the student loans and my mortgage, or should I wait until I am 70? First of all, don't pay off your mortgage. Relax. I think what I would do is, if possible, I still think I would wait. I think I would try to really squirrel away the money necessary for the $65,000 in student loans. But I'm not so sure that, because again, this really does depend on some of the rest of your life, but that working till you're 70 and delaying that Social Security benefit gives you such a huge advantage for every year you wait, that automatic 8%. I don't know. It's hard for me to turn that down. So I say keep working. Don't worry about the mortgage. Concentrate on the student loans. Hope that helps. Anne writes, sometimes I hear it's better to contribute to a Roth if you have a 403B at work that is not being matched. But if you can only put $6,000 a year into a Roth, is that what you're saying to do versus $18,000 in a retirement workplace account? So there's two issues here that I want to clarify. Some people have an option of using a Roth 403B at work, and that would allow you to put your $18,000 in. But if you have a kind of crappy plan at work and you want to use a Roth, then what you would do is you would put in the $6,000 into a Roth and then $12,000 into your retirement account that you have available to you. So that's something that's worth doing. Are you aware of any variable annuity companies offering tips as an investment option? Well, I don't know, but I'm sure there are some, Ford. And where do you look for good annuity companies offering immediate annuity with inflation protection on the payouts? This might be a case where, number one, I'm not sure you need it, but if you're looking for an immediate annuity, I'm not sure that's the smartest thing to do in a low interest rate environment, but I would go get myself a fee-only financial planner to help you with that. You can search and you can search for low-cost ones, but do you really need an annuity? I don't know if you need that. And if you don't really need it, I wouldn't want to necessarily pay up for it. Okay? This is Jill on Money. If you have a financial question, we would love to hear from you. The email address is askjill@jillonmoney.com. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. We are closing out the first hour of the program with an email from Jerome, a husband, a father, and loyal listener to the show. Here we go. Making contributions to 2 529 plans for daughters who are ages 3 and 8. I contribute a total of $200 per month to the plans. Girls are almost 5 years apart in age. So should I contribute more of the monthly $200 to my older daughter since I only have 9 years left? Yeah, definitely. You can definitely tilt it towards the older one because you can also move the money between the two, so that makes it a lot easier to make that decision. Okay, here we go. We got some more here. student loan debt relief. Hi, Jill. I listen to you on WBEN radio in Buffalo. I'm trying to help my son with his student loans, wondering if you have any legitimate student loan debt relief companies. No, there are none. All the debt relief and any student loan changes, you go to studentaid.ed.gov. Do not pay anyone to do this. It's just absolutely not worth it. And John writes he inherited an IRA annuity from his mother. And he says, I'm in decent shape financially, but the annuity she bought has very high fees. And the contract is confusing. What should I do? I don't know how old you are. If you're over 59 and a half, you could annuitize it. Find out if the surrender period on the annuity is behind you. And if that's the case, then you absolutely should get out of it. Okay? If that's not the case, you're going to have to stick with a stinko. I'm sorry. Okay. Another question about student loan forgiveness. Again, ladies and gentlemen, student loan forgiveness, studentaid.ed.gov. And then what you may want to do is if you're thinking about this, whether or not you qualify for the public service loan forgiveness, you should really explore this on the website. And if you can actually do this, it is vital that you follow the directions perfectly before you do it. So this is for Mary Lou. Don't commit any money to your kids' loans if you think the kids can really qualify for public service loan forgiveness. Okay, it's Jill on Money. Hour 1 has been presented by Capital One. We are broadcasting live from the Capital One studios. So we are happy to do so. And we got a whole nother hour ahead. So stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the weekend, and that can only mean one thing. You're listening to Jill on Money, the show that takes the mystery out of your finances. Here's your host, Jill Schlesinger.
Welcome, welcome. It's hour number 2 of Jill on Money, and we are broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance. Just go to policygenius.com. All righty. Mark tells me the email inbox has gotten a little crazed. So let's do some email segments, and I will try my hardest to get through to these. If you have a financial question, we would be delighted to try to answer it. Just go to jillonmoney.com. That's our website. You can click the contact button, or you can just send us an email yourselves. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. Okay, this is from Terry. We're getting ready to retire. We're trying to determine if it's worth it to purchase service credit to increase our pension payments. How do you evaluate it? I'm trained that annuities are never, or mostly never, a good idea. But this is a bit different. Haven't heard this discussed anywhere, so hopefully you'll answer the question. I have all the details if you pick the topic. Okay, Terry, here's the deal. I need more details. Usually, purchasing service credit is a great deal, but it really comes down to your specific situation. And so we've got to figure out what the cost is to buy it and how much your benefit will increase by doing so. As I have answered a lot of these questions with some of those details, I have found that more often than not, buying that time back, which is, it does mean that you have to cough up some of your money and some of your liquidity. When you do that, you often get a really good financial deal, which is that stream of payments. So if you send me more of the details, I'd be happy to address it. This is from Paul. I am a doctor closing my practice to become employed by a hospital system. I have a 401k with $1.6 million. I would like to manage it myself using a Vanguard IRA. Are there other options I should be considering? Sure. Well, there's a couple things. I mean, I love Vanguard, great company. I love Fidelity, or it could be Schwab. It could be T. Rowe Price. It could be TD Ameritrade. The ones that offer some automated trading platforms would actually maybe be of interest to you, and Vanguard is one of them. the Vanguard Personal Service Advisor, but there's also Betterment, there's Wealthfront, there's Schwab, which has the Intelligent Portfolio. But, if you're just going to be managing the funds yourself, you really don't need help. Certainly, Vanguard, using an index fund environment, is a pretty great way to go. So, way to go. Good. Do it. Jim recently received a $13,000 balloon payment on a property that I sold. Ooh, I live check to check. I've got a very small amount for emergencies. I'm afraid to invest it now with the state of the economy. I'm worried about buying high and selling low. Thank you for your input. Hey, Jim, that's your emergency reserve fund. You got it. Put it right in there. Do not put it at risk. Okay? Here's an interesting one. This is wants my thoughts on their situation. This is retired couple, age 76 and 71. And this is from Franco. We own our residence outright, presently on the market for 2 months for $3.2 million. No takers, no lookers. Agent suggests price reduction to 2.9. We have to downsize. Our maintenance is taking all of our time and our money needs. $100,000 to be bought by those that do not want a project. Okay. They own a second home that's worth $1.9 million with a $400,000 mortgage. The third, they own a rental outright with worth about $1.2 million. It generates $4,000 a month. IRAs, about $1.1 million. $500,000 in wife's, Social Security, stock, all this stuff. I mean, I don't know what to do when you bought a house that's like eating things up. There's a couple of things there's a whole bunch of money here. There's a whole bunch of assets. I think that the reality is that you know what you have to do, which is this house that's on the market, you need to downsize it. You need to just get it so it'll sell. You also have some life insurance with a bunch of cash value. I'm not sure you need that right now. You don't mention how much money you need to live on. You mentioned that you've got Social Security and, so it seems like you have a lot of assets. You know what I think? Here's my overriding suggestion. You need a financial advisor. There's a lot of stuff going on here, and it sounds like it's getting away from you a little bit. So I might, even if you have someone managing your money, which I think part of it you do, I would actually be interested in you getting a fee-only snapshot of what's going, meaning for a fee-only advisor to take a snapshot and give you some advice that has nothing to do with managing the assets. You can go to our website, JillOnMoney.com. We've got the 13 questions to ask before you hire a financial advisor. And in that, you'll see a link to the National Association of Personal Financial Advisors, or NAPFA. And that's where you can find fee-only advice. So why don't you start there? And I think the house thing's just really hard. When you have a huge asset and it's and all that money is tied up, I don't know, maybe you really should reduce the price. Jim writes, can I take money out of an annuity before the required time limit and move it to a different annuity without tax or original annuity penalty? Well, I guess that kind of depends. I have seen some cases where if you keep the annuity in the same family of annuities, you may not be penalized with the surrender period. But generally speaking, you're going to get whacked if you pull money out of an annuity within that usually 6, 7, maybe as many as 10-year surrender period. So I would be very careful before I started messing around with that. So you call the company, ask them. Speaking of annuities, here's Linda says, what do you think of single payment immediate annuities? Actually, in the whole panoply of annuities, these are among my favorite. Because it is they usually are lower cost and it's finite. You put a bunch of money in, you give it to the insurance company, and then they say, here is the immediate stream of income that you can draw from it. This question specifically, in Linda's case, she's 73, she's in good health. Her Social Security is about $2,000 a month. I'm currently working part-time. I earn about $650 per month. I could increase my hours, but I don't want to. These are my only sources of income. I have a home worth $250,000 with a $135,000 mortgage payment, and I would like to sell my home, move into an apartment. I need additional monthly income to qualify for an affordable income apartment. Is an immediate annuity a good choice. Wait, you need more income? Wouldn't you need less income? I read it as you wanted to qualify for affordable housing, and I see you have to show income in order to present to the landlord that you could. Okay, selling the house and renting sounds like a good idea, but you don't have to necessarily show income. You can say, I have this asset that I can afford. I would essentially be interested to find out from the landlord if they count that, if you sell your house and you have that asset, you could say, I plan on pulling X amount of dollars out. So maybe that would work. I don't know if you really should tie up the money in annuity. You don't have that much money, and I'm nervous that you really will need it at some point in the future. You are listening to Jill on Money, and you can find us at jillonmoney.com. That's our website, and you can do all sorts of things, including subscribe to our podcast. Or you can get the podcast on Apple, Stitcher, radio.com, Google Play, anywhere else you find your favorite podcast. The podcast is called Jill on Money. We'll be right back.
Back to Jill on Money, where Jill Schlesinger helps you take the mystery out of your finances.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. Hey, have you gone to the website lately? We have got lots of new stuff up there, ready to rock and roll. Mark's so good. Amazing. Gets all that stuff done. Makes me just post this stuff, keeps it all rocking and rolling. Did we not? We haven't posted the retirement plans for small business or sole proprietors yet. Let's get that up there. Sure. I think it was funny. We were asked a question about small business retirement plans, and so I decided to crank out, my usual 900 words about it. There's a lot of them out there. So check that out. It's under the Read tab of the Jill on Money website. Okay. Let's talk about how you figure out whether or not you like what your advisor's doing. Steve writes, listening to your show now, my question, I'm with USAA Wealth Management after transferring from First Command in 2016. Looking at my portfolio, how do I know if they're doing what's good for me? I kept to traditional IRAs with Vanguard as a backup. How can I say this? This is really weird and sort of a tough question because at this point, I feel like if you're getting advice from somebody at USAA and you're just comparing that with your Vanguard funds, it's not really an apples-to-apples comparison. I mean, you can, but the reality is that asset management is kind of a race to zero. There's a lot of different companies out there. There's lots of different platforms. It depends on what you've told your advisor is your risk tolerance. And, if you have, let's just say that you have a portfolio at Vanguard, which is essentially a balanced portfolio, 50 stocks, 50 bonds-ish, somewhere in that range. And you've got the same thing at, say, 3 other places. You can compare the performance, but just know that your USAA will probably be lagging the others because there's a built-in cost structure that you will usually pay for advice as well. So what you really need to figure out is, what are you getting from that person? Are you getting advice or is it just management? If it's management, then I can tell you that the money management, you shouldn't pay a lot of money for it. And you're probably better off at Vanguard. Oof, that's a tough one, though. All right. Robert is 56 years old, and he's got money in the thrift savings plan. Robert retired at 56, and he had money in the thrift savings plan through the government. Okay, so he and his wife talked to several financial planners, a CPA. We're planning to take some money, about $300,000, out of the TSP and roll it into an IRA, and then financial planners would invest some in bonds, some in stocks. They realize we want some growth, but also keep our money safe. Does this sound like a good approach? Hang on one second. You can't have growth and keep your money safe. So you can have growth, but moderate growth. You can have balanced growth, but the only way to keep your money safe is not to have it at risk. So you can't have it both ways. You can say I'm a balanced investor. You can say I have some money this, but like to suggest you can't really do both. Okay, now here's the thing. Another planner suggested take all the money out of the TSP, pay the taxes now. But a CPA we just consulted said not to take it all out now as there will be a big tax hit. All the money in the TSP is pre-tax. By rolling it into an IRA, there would be no taxes now per the CPA. Okay, so the only reason that you would pay all the taxes now is if you think your tax bracket's going up later. So I agree. I wouldn't necessarily do that. So that's number 2. Here's more information from Robert. We have kids in college for the next 3 years. We're paying for it. The government pension is not enough to cover all of our expenses, so my wife and I are going to work part-time until they're out of college. We'll probably have to tap into the remaining money in the TSP to help pay for college rather than taking out any loans. All right, you ready for your big picture here, Robert? Number 1, I don't see why you would move money out of the TSP. It's a good plan. So I might just leave everything in there right now and not roll any of it over and not pay anyone to manage your money. Why not just have a balanced portfolio yourself? Number 2, I don't know how much money's in the TSP. You don't mention that. But I absolutely would not tell you, and let me say this, unless you have a lot more money than I think you have, I'm not so sure I'd pull money out of the TSP to help pay for college. I really wouldn't. So what you first have to start with is how much money's in this TSP? Will the money in the TSP, along with my future pension, cover all of my needs? If you can, that's great. But if you can't, then you can't pull money out of the TSP. And so even if you're working part-time in college, I would wait. I would delay this all. I'd rather you work part-time or even work part-time longer to help pay for school. I mean, I think that there's a lot missing here, and I need more information. So you please try to send me some more details, okay? This is from Michelle. I loved your recent podcast episode. By the way, we have a sister podcast. It's called Jill on Money. It got me thinking about my own situation. My significant other is the only child of a mentally ill parent. His mother is a hoarder. Their relationship is strained at best, and they are often not on speaking terms, let alone cannot talk about financial planning. However, since he's an only child, we will likely be on the hook for her care as she ages and becomes unable to care for herself. I'm wondering if you could talk about how to financially protect yourself in a situation like this. Perhaps this could be applicable to others. Thank you. So this is very difficult. I would tend to get a lawyer involved in this because I think there could be something important in terms of, a legal aspect of whether or not this person is declared able or unable to care for him or herself. And also, there are a lot of different trusts, like special needs trusts, that are that would be established in order to have somebody who is mentally ill be able to apply for and receive benefits. So I think you may want to talk to an attorney to get the ball rolling on the process. It's a terrible situation, and I feel I'm so sorry. I just feel it's a hard situation. Dave writes, I save the maximum $8,000 per year in a health savings account. My wife thinks we should spend as we go, but I like the advice I've read that suggests saving all the HSA, paying medical expenses with other money, letting the HSA grow tax-free for retirement. I'm 5 years from retirement with a good nest egg. I still max out all of my 401ks. Wife contributes to IRA to the max. Kids are grown, no debt, and we save another $4,000 a month in non-qualified money. We keep it in money market, securities, ETFs. So I say we use the excess money we have each month now to pay medical bills and let the HSA grow. She thinks that using pre-tax money now is better. I think it's better not to, but I'm having trouble explaining why. Any opinion? I don't invest the HSA balance now. I'm planning to, now that there's enough there, around $7,000, so it will compound better than savings rates. I assume that there will be around $50,000 by retirement without earnings. So the HSA is a fascinating vehicle because I think in many ways it becomes almost like a stand-in for extra retirement benefits. It's kind of cool. For everyone listening, not any old person can actually open an HSA. You have to be enrolled in a high deductible health insurance plan. So your contributions are tax deductible, and that's kind of good for most of these people who do this. And then when you withdraw, they're tax free as long as you pay for qualified medical expenses. So here's what I think. I think that that letting this HSA go, it's sort of, think of it almost like as a Roth for your healthcare expenses. So I would say, I think you're right. I think you want to keep that tax-free part of your portfolio going as long as you possibly can and use that current money that you have set aside to pay for medical expenses. Now, I hope that helps you, and we'll get her on the phone if she wants some help as well, understanding it. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you have a question, send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. We'll be right back.
Follow Jill on Twitter and Instagram for more personal finance content. Just use the handle at @JillOnMoney. Now, back to the show.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. And this is the program that tries to take the mystery out of your financial life. We'd love to hear from you. Send us an email, ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. Or if you're poking around the website, maybe you're there to sign up for our free weekly newsletter or to buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money. There's also a contact button right there for you. Okay. So this is somebody who heard a segment I did on NPR on the podcast, The Indicator, where I was talking about paying down student loan debt. And this guy says, I've always been a firm believer in paying back my student loans, which carry a 6.5% interest rate, as slowly as possible, which allows me to aggressively invest in the market that typically sees 8 to 10% return. And I'm viewing this over a 20 to 30-year time horizon. Okay, good luck. Because that's just a dumb choice in my mind. Because you're taking risk to get 8 to 10%, and there's no risk in paying off a 6.5% note. And if you're comfortable with that risk, great for you. I think that's a really bad decision. Really bad. So that's just two different viewpoints. But if you have a 6.5% guaranteed return and you have to take a lot of risk to get 8 to 10%, I don't think that's even a choice. Take the safe, guaranteed return. Gary writes, my monthly mortgage payment is $960, and I pay an extra $60 down on the principal. 30-year fixed at 3.75%. I'm 2 years into it. I'm going to keep up this extra payment until I pay it off. I'm 50 years old now. I'm single. I've got no other debt. I don't plan to live here forever, somewhere between 5 and 10 years. Then don't make extra payments. That's a definite. If you're going to move, then you absolutely should not make extra payments. Okay? So no, Gary, no extra payments. Not worth it. Okay, here we go. Emily and her husband just turned 30. And they've saved almost nothing for retirement. Neither of us have a job that matches a 401k contribution. Where should we go from here? Okay, here we go. He makes $100,000 a year, and his company offers a 401k but with no match. She makes $20,000 a year at a tiny company, no benefits at all. They've got $25,000 in various savings account. They've got $30,000 in retirement savings. They've got $55,000 left at 3% and some the mortgage and federal student loans, $30,000 at 4%. Up until this point, we threw every single spare dollar paying down $90,000 of high interest student loan debt. So that's awesome. Now that's paid off. We're trying to catch up. So questions. Is it worth it to use the husband's 401k? Kind of depends what that 401k is. Is that a Vanguard or a Fidelity? I mean, I want to know what your 401k option is. If it's a good option, yeah, why not use it? Really. And if you're not going to use it, then both of you should be making contributions into Roth IRAs. That's really what I would do. That's the most important thing. So no, don't put all of your savings into one low-fee index funds. You can keep your savings as savings, okay? Meaning that if you've got 5 months of expenses, you should probably have 6. Savings is savings, and nothing. Don't put that money at risk at all. So what I think the game plan is, beef your emergency savings up to 6 months. Keep that in boring cash equivalent accounts. If your husband has a decent 401k, you could use it. But otherwise, I would each of you use a Roth IRA with a place that offers low-cost index funds, and that's what you should be doing, Emily. I think that's the main thing. All right, what else? Oh, here's a good way to end this segment, Mark. I need another question, but I will do this. Let me do this other question first. Okay? This will be easy. I got a note from somebody who at work who wants a recommendation for a financial advisor. And I can't say this enough, that as you are thinking about whether or not to hire a financial person in your life, the critical question to ask yourself is, what is it that I want this person to do for me? Okay? It's not so much that you have to have know specifically of what the person is going to do to get there. But what do you want out of this relationship? Do you need financial planning? Do you need to have somebody there for you to hold your hand through big decisions and making those decisions? Do you just need someone to help manage assets? You can get that really easily. So I just want to make sure that whatever you're seeking in terms of financial advice, that you choose the right type of solution to meet your needs. Now, one thing you can do is you can go to the website, JillOnMoney.com, go under the resource tab, and the first thing that we have up there, need an advisor? Here's 13 questions to ask. It's right there for you. Really easy. Really easy. Okay. Now, before we go to a break, here is like the most fun thing to do. You ready, Mark? This is from Barry, and this is why you should be reading this, because otherwise I sound like a jerk reading this, but I'm going to read it anyway. Barry's subject, super fan. I am your number one fan in Minnesota. I turn off my pacemaker, oxygen machine, take the phone off the hook, and lock the door so I can listen to you and Dave Lee on WCCO. Dave Lee is the morning show host Monday through Friday. You guys are so great together. I don't turn off the pacemaker or the oxygen machine. Like Donna Summer said, love to love you, baby. Barry, love you. Right back. Make sure you keep that pacemaker on and the oxygen machine on. Please. I don't want to be irresponsible. Love my friends at WCCO. Love Dave Lee's in the mornings. And very happy to get those kinds of notes. Really appreciate it. Okay, it's Jill on Money. You've got any questions? Financial ones percolating? Send us an email. Ask Jill at JillOnMoney.com. And if you're on the website at JillOnMoney.com, don't forget to sign up for our free weekly newsletter. We'll be right back.
If you've missed any part of the show or want to check out a past show, go to JillOnMoney.com for more great personal finance content.
You're back. It's Jill on Money. This is the program that takes the mystery out of your financial life. Oh, this is so fun. Mark, you don't even realize this. This is an email from an old friend of mine growing up, Ellen. So what fun. Hi, Ellen. I think she might live in like Santa Fe-ish. area. I thought so at the last time we spoke. Anyway, we went through confirmation class together, so I got to love that. We know each other from way back. Okay, so Ellen writes, I heard you interviewed on the Planet Money podcast called The Indicator, and you were discussing student loan debt. I have a question. Why do we structure student loans like credit cards and not like mortgages or car loans? Why is it possible to owe more at the end of a year of payments? It seems destined to punish the student and reward the government lenders. Hope all is well with you these days, Ellen. You know, the weird thing is that student loans should be structured as term loans. In fact, they kind of are. But I think that in an effort to kind of help students manage these loans, especially if they don't get great jobs, they were offered a lot of flexibility. But I can't agree with you more that these really should have much better payment terms so that people understand what they're getting into. So I agree, we need a total student loan overhaul, but that is not happening anytime soon. Okay, bye, Ellen. Thanks for writing. Karen writes that she is debating taking out a loan on her 401k account to pay off her kids' student loans and a few credit cards or put it towards paying off half the house. Come on. First of all, no. She's 55. She says she wants to pay off the loan in 15 years instead of 20 years. So for sure, here's what you should not do. You should not take out a loan against your 401k account to pay off a house because that's just losing all your liquidity. You definitely shouldn't help pay off your kids' student loans. As far as your credit cards, I mean, it really depends what the rate is. It depends what you're really trying to do here. But without knowing a lot more about you, I can't advise that this is a great idea. Really, truly. Don't do it. All right, Nancy writes, my husband, whose income far exceeds mine, wants me to close my personal account and be all in on one joint account. He is trustworthy. I have no worries he's running off to Venezuela on a whim. But psychologically, I like having control of my own money. What do you think about this topic? I think whatever you want is great. I think it's great to have a joint account. But if I understand that, you know, it's nice to have your own money. I just think that he's got to understand that. And you can say that it's perfectly reasonable. Here's a question about preferred stocks from somebody named John who's got stocks, bonds, real estate, and wants to use some money that's in a money market account to buy preferred stocks. So preferred stocks are kind of interesting. They are stocks, but they have a fixed dividend payment. So it's something like a hybrid between a stock and a bond. I don't have preferred stocks are fine. They're going to create income. It's okay. I'd have to know a lot more about the rest of your portfolio to figure it out. I'm not 100% sure that it's necessary, but it's not going to hurt you either, probably. John is 55. He's got $650,000 in his company 401k. His aunt passed away earlier this year and has named him as a beneficiary on a non-qualified annuity. It's about $155,000, and John says he's going to work another 10 years because he needs the medical insurance. I'm debt-free. Any advice on what to do with the annuity? Well, it's non-qualified, so it's not a retirement account. I guess the answer would have to do with what's going on in that annuity. Is it a fixed annuity? Is it a variable annuity? That's one question to ask. Is this something that is in a product that is now done, meaning that all the surrender charges have been wiped away with time? Is it with a company where you'd want to start pulling some of the money out sooner rather than later? I need a little bit more information. So send us what's going on with this annuity, who the actual provider is. That would be helpful. And then we might be able to help you out a little bit more. That would be easier. Okay, this next note is from John. I wrote a quick column over the summer just to say, hey, here's some ideas about how to save money. And John said, thank you so much for the simple reminders from your recent column in the Chicago Tribune. I canceled Spotify and HBO. Game of Thrones is over after all. And I'm going to save $300 a year. Doesn't seem like much, but it all adds up. I know. It's so true. Robert writes, a year and a half ago when changing jobs, I elected not to roll over my existing 401k into my new employer's plan. The reason, my old plan at Vanguard has an expense ratio of 0.06%. My new plan with Fidelity has a ratio of 0.23. My question is, would I be able to, and smart to, roll the money in my current Fidelity plan back into my Vanguard without any penalties? Well, if you're currently working, you can't do it. You have to keep your current job's contribution in its plan unless you've left or are planning to leave. So I would keep the Vanguard plan. That's fine. And don't worry. I mean, honestly, 0.23 isn't so horrible either. So I just don't go too nutty. And here's a note from Mike, who basically says that he was happy that when I was talking about Federal Reserve cutting interest rates, that I noted that, in fact, that this hurt savers. And that was a bummer. So, yeah, there's always winners and losers with all these Fed actions. So don't forget, when you hear about that, there might be some people who are not exactly thrilled about a Fed rate cut. Okay, you're listening to Jill on Money. If you've got a financial question, send us an email. Ask Jill at jillonmoney.com. And go to the website, jillonmoney.com. You can listen to past shows, and you can also buy my book, The Dumb Things Smart People Do With Their Money, 13 Ways to Right Your Financial Wrongs. We'll be right back. You're back. It's Jill on Money. And before we close out the program, let's do a couple of emails, maybe just one. We'll see. This is from Lourdes, 58 years old, and has worked for a state for 28 years. My wife is 47, and we've got 3 kids, 22, 19, and 9. That was my whoops. Okay, older boys in community college. I will have a state pension when I retire, and I'm not sure which plan to choose, as I can do unmodified to get the maximum, but only good till I die. This is, when you have big pension questions, I think it's actually a very good idea to see a fee-only financial planner who can really run through these numbers. It's very important. Also, to make matters even more complicated, they have a house, $1.5 million. They've got a balance of a $1.14 million mortgage, already refinanced twice. And one of the goals is to lower the principal to $750,000 because of the new tax laws. Also, I'm thinking of retiring at 62 and collecting Social Security because I think my daughter will be able to collect part of it. I'm maxing my savings. And I think if I refi, I may not be able to save as much. What to do in my circumstance and the overall picture. Okay, this is way too complicated for us to do this in one fell swoop. But I think generally speaking, people have got to stop this idea that I have to pay off my mortgage. Don't worry about that. Right now, what I think is important is you have a big decision to make around retirement. Does that make sense for your situation? This is where I do think a fee-only planner can take into account your current situation, your pension, the idea of claiming Social Security benefits early at 62, which may or may not work for you. I don't think you need to do that. You're going to permanently curtail that earnings for your life and your wife's life. So she probably has her own if she were going to claim yours. So here's what I think. Go get yourself a fee-only planner. Go to NAPFA, NAPFA.org, and do that. Do it. Okay, you have been listening to our program. It's called Jill on Money, and we are so happy that you joined us. We have been broadcasting live from the Policy Genius studios. Policy Genius is the easy way to compare and buy insurance, so check out PolicyGenius.com. And during the week, check out our website, jillonmoney.com. You know what you can do? Get our free weekly newsletter. Go for it. Okay, we'll see you next week. Thanks for listening.